So it's a pretty cold morning, which is interesting because, it's summer, but it's been a very mild summer so far, which is very nice. And it's just been such a beautiful day so far. The sun is shining. I'm out here, one of my favorite places in the world, and there was a couple deer that just ran off, and that's always very nice. Actually, there was one standing right where I am right now, which I kind of felt bad walking over here because I did have to scare it away a little bit. I mean, I didn't try to scare it away, I was just walking towards it. But that's always, you know, interesting. But what I'm here to talk about is the importance of being in the present moment and finding joy in the most, even in circumstances that you're not necessarily happy with, right? And so I'm going to tell you a little story. I used to work, well, I still do, but a while ago, a couple years ago, I worked for my neighbor in construction. What we first had to do was tear down his old house, like the family house that had been passed down, but we had to tear it down because the foundation was no good. It had been remodeled so many times that it just, like, they everyone kept making little mistakes every time they remodeled it, and so it became kind of not structurally sound. And it was also infested with not just mice and rats, but snakes, because when you have prey, often predators follow. So there were literally snakes living in the walls of this house. It was awful, right? And so we had to tear it down. And literally we'd be tearing it down, like snakes shed skins would be hanging in the rafters because the snakes were living in the attic and they were shedding their skin up there. Oh my, it was nasty. Yeah, so we tore that out and we had to rebuild a new house, and it was a great job. It was hard work, it was really difficult, and it was a massive challenge in my life. But I'm extremely grateful that that was my first job I ever had, was literally building a house and tearing a house down, which was the fun part. Which was extremely challenging and taught me a lot of lessons on the value of hard work and what it takes to actually get stuff done and what you actually want to achieve. Now, I took the next summer off, basically, because I worked for him, and then the next summer, I didn't have a job. I was going to flight school. I was flight training every day because I had to get my license in a certain period of time to get accepted into this college I was trying to get into. And so I had to get my license that summer, basically. And so, I locked in on flight training, didn't really do anything else. I was solely focused on going to flight school. And that was very valuable. And then this this summer, I was looking for a different job. I was looking for a job. I'm looking for something, hopefully I was looking for something in the food business, like maybe working for a small restaurant or something like that, because I would really enjoy doing something that's more customer service oriented instead of it being less like a construction job where you're working with your friends, like you're basically working with your buddies, and you're doing very manual things. You had to be very focused the whole time, but you're not really speaking to people, you're not meeting new people, you're not being social. And I wanted to learn the skill of service. I wanted to learn the skill of customer service because it's a very valuable skill in life. But unfortunately, a lot of places aren't hiring me. They don't want to hire a kid like me where I'm going away. I'm moving away soon, and so I'm only really available for a shorter period of time, and no one wants to hire me because they had to train me and all that stuff. And so it's hard to find a job right now. But my neighbor has a new project. He owns a rental property, and that needs a serious remodel. And so he reached out, said, "Hey, would you like to work for me this summer on doing this?" And I was really hesitant. I didn't want to, because I wanted to keep my options open. I wanted to do something new and different. I didn't want to be just working for my neighbor like my whole life, right? Obviously, that's a big exaggeration, but you know what I mean. And Another drawback was because before, you know, I made a lot of friends that were working there, and none of them were going to be doing this. Like, I made a lot of friends who were also working in that area where they were doing construction with me and my neighbor, and it was a lot of fun to be able to hang out with them. And they weren't, I learned that they weren't going to be working with me on this rental property, and it was a whole, I felt kind of sad because I realized I'm going to work now, and before I could be doing a really miserable task, right? Like, there was one day, there was one day the foundation of the old house, because a lot of older houses are made of rock that are, just mortared in instead of pouring a whole concrete foundation. It's literally just stacked stones. That's how old this house was. And these are massive boulders. And uh, when they dug the foundations, they left some of the boulders behind unintentionally. Like, they were still in the hole that was the basement, because now they just dug a big hole to remove most of the old foundation, but some of those massive boulders were still in there. And so what we had to do is we had to like load them up on these carts and like drag them out of this little step that we had like left from the old house to get them out of there. And we were basically just sorting rocks because our neighbor wanted to use those boulders to build a cabin later. It was a miserable day because you're literally doing deadlifts over and over and over again with these massive awkward boulders. And normally that would be awful. That would be miserable. But because two of my good friends were there, it was a lot of fun because we were goofing off. And one of them is Irish, like his parents came from Ireland, and so he was like talking like this Irish accent, talking about how he was like pretending that he was like taking rocks out of the potato fields. It was so funny. It was so stupid. And it was a great time. But now I'm working alone and, I'm not really having that much of a good time. But I have realized something very valuable. I know it's a very long story, and this is meant to be a shorter video, but I'm already kind of over time. And if you haven't clicked off at this point, good for you. What I'm getting at here is, normally I would hate this situation that I'm in right now. I would dislike it because I'm not getting what I wanted. I wanted to do something different. Now I'm not even getting what I had before. I'm just kind of working mostly by myself, and it's not as fun, and it's kind of boring. But I realized the value of gratitude and seeing the best in your situation that you're in. And I know this sounds silly, but I wasn't very grateful for the job I got and the opportunity I was given until I got my paycheck at the end of the 2 weeks, and I realized, this may not be what I wanted, but at least it's a job, and I'm making money, and it's paying very well, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm not really enjoying it, but I'm at least having a little bit of fun with it. And I realized the value of just changing your mentality, changing your attitude with the situation you're in. And that can actually just transform your entire life. Think about it, right? I could be sitting out here in the woods. Okay, let me create you a scenario. You got two people. One person is a outdoorsy kind of person. They enjoy being outside, kind of like me. And another person is a not so outdoorsy person. They don't like being outside. Why do they not like being outside? Because of the bugs. I just got like bit by a couple bugs on my legs right now. Because of the bugs, the spiders, the uncleanliness, the dirtiness, They don't like the elements. They want to be comfortable, right? These are two different people. And then you put both of them outside, like me and then some other person. If you're anything like me, you're going to be happy that you're outside. You're going to be enjoying the beautiful nature, the trees, the birds chirping. You're going to be looking at all these positive situations, all these great things that are happening around you. But if you're a not so outdoorsy person and you don't really like the outdoors because of all those flaws with it, because of the bugs and the dirtiness and the poison ivy and all that stuff, you're gonna be miserable. You're gonna be disliking it a lot. You're gonna be bored. You're gonna be waiting for the moment you can leave the woods and go back home, and you're gonna be like mad about everything, scratching everything, and like complaining. That's the difference. Because the outdoors isn't different for these two people. It's the same, right? The outdoors doesn't change depending on the person. It's just their perception of the outdoors changes depending on the person. And so if you're going to be the kind of guy who complains and isn't so happy with their situation and are miserable, and obviously you can dislike your situation. There's nothing wrong with disliking your situation. But if you're constantly filling your mind with negativity, focusing on how bored you are when you're at work and how you're not with your friends anymore and how it isn't what you wanted, you're going to be miserable, right? But if you're focusing on the positives, you're thinking about, well, okay, I'm at work and I'm by myself, which is kind of boring, but boredom's actually pretty good for you. And I'm going to just sit here and dwell with my thoughts. Because sitting and dwelling with your thoughts is actually very, very healthy for you. And being able to do that is a blessing, because most of the time you're overthinking everything. You're constantly doing this and that, and there's a lot going on. You're busy. When you're just working with yourself, especially doing a manual task, you're able to do that manual task, but you're also able to kind of think about other things at the same time. And that's really, really valuable, because that's where I get all my ideas. It's usually at work. And that's a great thing. That's a great positive that I might not be able to get at other jobs. I don't know. I haven't really had a different job. But you know what I'm saying. And so your entire perception of reality can transform depending on just how you think about your current situation. Because I believe it was a Stoic who said, the only thing you can 100% control is your own thoughts, your own mind. You can't control the rest of the world. I mean, to an extent you can. You can decide, am I going to cut down this tree? Am I going to level the whole forest and just turn it into grass so I don't have to be in like the wild nature anymore and I can just be in the yard, right? You can do that. But you're never going to fully control nature. You're never going to fully control everything that's going around. But you can fully control your mind and how you perceive the world around you. And what you can accept and not accept. That's what you can control. That's all I got for today. God bless you. Stay wild.